The Fall Classic is here. The Rangers and the Diamondbacks are set to start the World Series, but what does that mean for the Seattle Mariners? Paul Sewald is on that team, Ketel Marte is on that team, and the Mariners are sitting at home. Also, Dusty Baker retired, bless up. And maybe since it's the last podcast before Halloween, we'll have a spooky segment here at the end of the show today, episode 31 of the Hit It Here podcast. Joe, how's it going?
I'm nervous now. I know the spooky segment is the thing that I don't know anything about, so
It's
you
true.
stick around to find out what the hell that is, because I have no clue. But the thing I do have a clue about, segues are incredible. Paul Sewald is my literal father. I am so jazzed that he has been exactly what the Diamondbacks have needed. Not to give, not give just credit to him. The entire team has showed up when they needed to. Ginkle, Thompson, great. But the Sewald jersey came in during Game 7, so that was big. That was big clutch.
I don't know. Why are you lying to them?
What do you mean?
It came in before Game 7.
Like the day of Game
Not
7.
sure.
Like it's
He's
like the same
lying to you.
thing.
Yeah, no, Seawald, I mean, he's been very good. It's so cool to watch him close down like every night, basically, it feels like. When every win for the Diamondbacks, it feels like he has had a big part in it. And watching the other night when he came in and sent them to the World Series, like he looked like he was on. He looked a little nervous, like the look on his face, but
Yeah.
maybe I don't know. I was just like the fact that we get to watch Paul Sewald pitch. It's time for Paul Sewald to go to the World Series. The fact that we get to watch Paul Sewald pitch in the World Series is so cool because he's such a fan favorite in Seattle, and he's a guy that I have gained a ton of respect for. Honestly, even since the trade, I've gained a ton of respect for that guy. And I think that he's kind of a cult hero now in Seattle. But then it begs the question, and of course we got it in our comments. Oh well, Paul Sewald's going to the World Series, and Ketel Marte is going to the World Series. Oh, bad trades, blah blah. What are your thoughts on that?
I'm looking for a correlation currently. So the issue is that like the Mariners bullpen was still good post Paul Sewald departure, and Rojas put up like the best part of the like any part of statistical whatever for a second baseman on the Mariners in 2023. That was Josh Rojas. So without him, like, do we think that the platoon of Dylan Moore and Jose Caballero and like that the rotating door, including Sam Haggerty in there, maybe we don't designate Colton Wong? Does that get us any further than like if we retain Paul Sewald? No, I don't. I don't think so. And I know that that's the conversation that everyone's having. It's going to be the conversation that we're gonna have for a while. And also, like, not to rag on Paul Sewald, but looking back to last postseason, 2022, it was the first postseason for him, so obviously nerves are also at an all-time high, duh. But he wasn't that good for the Mariners in 2022 in the postseason. That blow up, the failed save essentially, or getting to the save opportunity for Paul Sewald against the Astros in the game 1 of the division series, eventually leading to your daddy being born. It just wasn't great. And now seeing him have the success, though, it shows that like turning over a new leaf, it can work for guys, and he has been like electric for the Diamondbacks. But do you think the Diamondbacks have enough juice to go and finish off the Texas Rangers?
I'll be honest with you, I haven't thought they'd had enough juice to do anything they've done, and they have, and I'm not going to count them out even against Rangers. The Rangers have a really good offense. I think that the Diamondbacks have been surprising me the entire postseason, so I have no reason to think they're not going to do it again. And I'm rooting for the Diamondbacks. I am. I love that team. I think they're a super fun team. They're embracing the chaos.
Yeah.
They have Paul Sewald again, Ketel Marte, but a little bit before we move on from the Sewald trade, I think that it can be a win-win on both
Oh
sides.
yeah.
And yeah, Sewald, they needed him desperately. Ever since he went to Arizona, he has changed the landscape of that bullpen. Absolutely. But also, without, like you said, Josh Rojas in the mix this season, the Mariners probably don't even come close to sniffing the playoffs. Dom Canzone is another guy. You got like 18 years of control of 3 guys for a year and a half of a reliever that you would sign to a minor league deal. No, like, do I do that trade again? Yes, every single time I do that trade again. Same with the Ketel Marte trade. Do I do that Ketel Marte trade again? Yes, every single time I do that Ketel Marte trade again. It's just, you can't look at these trades and say, oh, well, short-sightedness. These guys are in the World Series and we're not, because obviously it's a full team effort. And would the Diamondbacks have gotten there without Paul Sewald? It's possible. I mean, after they acquired Paul Sewald, the Diamondbacks lost 9 straight.
It was not looking good
So,
in the desert.
yeah, so I don't know. I think that it's fine. Is it right to look at this Paul Sewald trade and say, "Man, I miss Paul"? Absolutely. I miss Paul a lot. But you can't look at it and say, "Oh, we got these 3 guys and they're not worth it," because Paul Sewald will be in the last year of his contract in 2024, whereas we'll still have Dom Canzone for another 5 years. Josh Rojas, I think, another 4, and Ryan Bliss hasn't even come up yet.
Yeah.
So this trade could pay dividends for the next half a decade. And so I don't see how you can look at this trade and say, well, don't get me wrong, I agree the Mariners could have used Paul Sewald the rest of the way.
Yeah.
Absolutely. The failure is not on the Paul Sewald trade. The failure is on not going out and acquiring someone to replace Paul Sewald after that with some of your prospects. That's the problem.
Yeah, 100%. I think so. Before we go into the World Series preview, I'm going to wrap up Paul Sewald really quickly. There was some discourse around Mariners Twitter about, I don't know if you're nodding your head like you might know where I'm going. If Paul re-signs with the Mariners and comes back and pitches 2-3 more years, is he a Mariners Hall of Famer?
Yes.
Okay, because there was conversation about like Mitch being a Mariners Hall of Famer and other guys that are in like certain tiers of, whether or not they belong or whether or not they did enough. 2 and 3 more years of excellent reliever work, Paul Sewald's in, or does he come back and he's like average? Do you think he still earned that spot?
No.
It has to be
See,
like still like 120 like ERA plus level stuff.
he's got to look good. Yeah, he's got to
Okay.
come back and be the Paul Sewald that we know. And in my opinion, the Mariners Hall of Fame's kind of dumb.
Sure. I mean,
I said it.
yeah, I mean, it is. It's more of like, I don't want to say like a vanity or like a fan vote style like popularity thing, but yeah, there's certain qualifications and also in that same vein limitations where it's like,
Mhm.
how do you measure the quantifiable success over 5 years versus 4 years as like being that much different? Like Nelson Cruz, I think is your biggest example of like someone that you wish could be in, but he never will because he didn't have the tenure. And I understand tenure is probably important in terms of that. However, the impact felt from Boomstick Baby in the 4 years he was in Seattle, I think it's incredible.
Yeah, it's second to none. I mean, he was the leader of this team, and again, I feel very similarly to Mitch.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think that Mitch deserves a spot in the Mariners Hall of Fame, or at least he deserves a chance. I don't think maybe he doesn't make it, but the
Yeah.
fact that Rick Riz isn't in it, that's stupid. Like, why is Rick Riz? Are you just waiting for the guy to pass away and then you'll put him in? Like, I
Whoa.
don't know. I don't know if they're waiting for Rick Riz, for example. I don't know if they're waiting to have
Like, or
him no
maybe
longer be the announcer.
I
You
say
know what I mean? Like
retire might be
retirement.
retire might be the better.
Right, but I don't think Rick Riz is gonna retire.
Sure. Is that the
I don't
spooky
think he will.
segment?
No, no, that's not the spooky segment. But I don't know. The Mariners Hall of Fame, it's tough to say. Like, I don't necessarily know if there's a rhyme or reason to have the things they do. So
Okay.
that's just my 2 cents. And if Mariners, if you're listening,
Put us in the Hall of
sorry,
Fame.
put us in the Hall of Fame. Sorry about that. All right, Joe really got us off topic there, but let's talk a little bit about a preview of the World Series. Game 1, Zach Gallen versus Nathan Eovaldi. Joe, who you got?
A gallon of milk. He's honestly not been that great in the postseason. I would say he's had a little bit of some hiccups there, and that's okay. You know, it matters now that he pitches his best in the World Series. I'm probably giving the edge still to Eovaldi there. He's been a dog in the postseason. Like, not gonna put him on the mad bum levels in terms of just overall postseason career success, but he's been very, very excellent in his entire career in the postseason. So game 1, I'd give the edge to Nasty Nate and the Rangers as a whole, probably. They do have an extra day off. Damn you, schedulers. Damn you, you bastards. Really just throwing a wrench in, the chaos that the Diamondbacks are trying to bring. But game 1, it will not, be the end all be all. Both championship series went to 7 games for a reason. Both teams are going to fight tooth and nail to the end. And even though I have the Rangers taking the advantage in game 1, the Diamondbacks are definitely still going to be, it's not going to be like this big blowout. It's going to be a close game in game 1, I would say.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that as a whole, I think that the Rangers probably win the World Series. Like, I I know. I again, I don't hope that happens. We're D-back dojo, baby. All right. I want Paulie and Ketel Marte to get a ring. But I mean, the people are saying that this is such a boring World Series, and that's just not true.
They just don't know ball.
For the last like what 6 or 7 years, it's either been the Dodgers or the Astros as
Mm-hmm.
one half of the World Series every single year. Like, you want to talk about boring? How about seeing the exact same team in the World? I'm so glad it wasn't Astros Phillies.
Yeah.
That
The
would have been
only
so stupid.
the only way the Astros Phillies I think is salvageable in terms of that is like it kind of
Phillies.
it yeah, the Phillies win and it closes the chapter of like both those teams I think kind of being at the top of the respective leagues essentially in terms of postseason success. Because the Phillies win, do they have a chance at going to 3 years in a row? I'm not sold on the Phillies like being able to retain that level of like success. Astros lose. Dusty's also out, so like change in management could lead to, maybe not the immediate success of, some other managers like the Rangers bringing in Bruce Bochy. It's not oftentimes this quick direct transfer back into success. So the like you're saying, it would have been kind of boring unless you're an Astros or a Phillies fan. And the teams that enjoy the dynasty life, obviously like thinking about like basketball, the Warriors, the Patriots in football. The fans of those teams loved it, rightfully so. I'm sure Astros fans relish the fact that they've been, the West runs through Houston for so long. And now that the passing of the torch has kind of commenced, I don't know how people can look at this and be bored because there's lots of, I think, great storylines to tell from individual teams and players. Like for the Rangers, you're looking at Corey Seager and his success in the postseason, dating back to his success with the Dodgers. Will Semien be able to bounce back, or will he continue to kind of be quiet in the postseason and let other guys around him step up? Obviously, Adolis Garcia is lightning in a bottle. Dude is electric, no matter what he's doing. You can go then to the Diamondbacks side. You've got, obviously, we have an affinity because Paul Sewald, Ketel Marte, and also they're playing the AL West rival. So duh. I think it's any Mariners fan that's not rooting for the Diamondbacks, I would be a little confused unless you've got other other things going on.
The fact that we haven't mentioned Corbin Carroll's name is a sin.
Yeah, I
Like,
mean,
neither of us have mentioned Corbin Carroll, Seattle guy.
well, of course. I mean, he's definitely going to be a catalyst for that Diamondbacks team. He stepped up huge, I think, in Game 7 and
Mm-hmm.
caught the final out, which was very, very great for him. I mean, he didn't have to make a throw with his noodle arm that everyone's calling him out on, but Seattle native, he's going to win Rookie of the Year, adding a World Series title on top of that. I mean, how could you start your career off on a better foot than Corbin Carroll might have the opportunity to finish out this year?
And you talked a little bit about Dusty announcing his retirement, which I think he officially did on Wednesday. I think he officially said, "Yeah, I'm retiring on
Yeah.
Wednesday."
Mm-hmm.
Now this was from Boob Nightingale, so I don't know. It's Boob Nightingale, but anyway, so that brings up an interesting point with the Astros, especially like you said, the passing of the torch, because they have Dusty's gone. A lot of their contracts are coming up soon-ish,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not sure are they going to be able to retain all these guys. They want to extend Altuve. I think Altuve is entering the last year of his deal. I believe Bregman is as well, and I think Verlander, this would be his last year as well, unless he pitches X amount of innings or what have you. So everyone was saying that the Astros need to take a look in the mirror, which I mean, they just went to 7 straight ALCS like
Mm-hmm.
championship series. Like, do they really need to look themselves in the mirror? It has to end at some point, right?
Yeah.
Like they're not going to do this every single year for the rest of time.
Hopefully.
But yeah, hopefully. But like when you see those contracts coming up, what do you think about the Astros in 2024 and moving forward for them?
I agree that their window of contention, it's definitely closing to a certain degree, but they've got a lot of young, talented guys on their team that kind of, I mean, Kyle Tucker, one of my favorite players, that's unfortunately on the Astros, went pretty quiet in this postseason. Was not overly successful at the plate. Needs to add a bounce pad out there in the warning track to be able to rob some of those home runs or work on his vertical to get up to give him a 5 foot vertical. He's catching every single fly ball. That's like barely over the fence. Tucker, Pena, Chas McCormick still, I think, a very viable piece on that team. You've got Yainer Diaz, who should supplant Martin Maldonado as the catcher. I don't care how bad Diaz's defense is, even if it's not even that bad. I don't think it is. I don't think it's that terrible. But you can't let Maldonado continue to take at bats from him. I feel like it's just not worth it, and they still got Jordan. So yeah, some of the veteran presences you're starting to maybe have to work around trying to either replace them or give them the money and figure out other replacements and kind of like offload some other contracts. But I don't think their window's done necessarily. They will be competitive at least for 2, 3 more years with this core of players, I'd say.
I agree with that. I mean, I think that, Jeremy Pena really fell off this year. He was not good
Yeah.
at all. And I think that Tucker was very good this year. I think he's not nearing the end of his deal, but he's getting relatively close, I think. I mean, he might be out after 2025. Um, and then, yeah, I mean, first base, I have Abreu. Obviously, he's only going to be there for a little bit longer. Hunter Brown, I'm sure, we'll figure it out maybe. I
Yeah.
don't know. Who was their guy, starting pitcher, who was always so highly touted and has never been anything? And
Appel?
no. Oh gosh. He like got popped for steroids at
Forrest
one
Whitley.
point. Yes, Forrest Whitley. What the heck happened to that guy, dude? Like
I mean, yeah,
doesn't exist.
yeah, that's pretty much it. He just doesn't exist.
I don't know. I think that the Astros, they don't have a great farm system. They traded their two best players for Justin Verlander,
Mm-hmm.
and they kind of bring this full circle to talk about the Mariners a little bit. Hey, like this is, your window of opportunity is right there. The Rangers were good, but just remember the Mariners were right there with the Rangers at the end. Spend the money. That's all you got to do. Spend the money this offseason, make some good trades, and you should theoretically be you. The fact of the matter is, the Mariners could, with a few extra moves made maybe at the deadline, I could see them being in the same position the Rangers are right now. I could.
Yeah. Which is, I think, also the most frustrating part about it is the front office maybe didn't really fully believe that this team was worth adding to in that trade deadline. And Sewald said when he was on Chris Rose's sports show, did a little interview segment. Sewald had some comments that basically where he was kind of in line with what a lot of everyone else was, with like Cal talking about we need to go like bring in some guys, be that echo chamber of like we want this team to get better, and however that is, if the front office isn't going to help us, like why would we not be frustrated in that way? And Paul said going into the start of this last year that they put themselves in a spot where they felt like they were going to receive a bit of help in terms of additions to the team, and the front office did not give them, I guess, what they were hoping for to an extent, which is kind of a weird way, not a weird way to word it, but it is, we all know who he's pointing fingers at, right? Like it's Trevor Gott, it's AJ Pollock, it's the names that your bargain bin diving for that did not pan out, that then caused the incursion of Paul Sewald to be traded because the team was not good enough to add to at the deadline as opposed to trade from. And you could have done both. You could have been buying and selling, like you've mentioned. I think the Paul Sewald trade could still have happened this year very easily. And you still add a Mark Canha. The Tommy Pham is the big one that I feel like a lot of people were like, go get him. And then, now he's playing in the World Series with the Diamondbacks. Or just some other, additional piece. And do you get one more win? Do you get 2 more wins? Maybe, right? And so seeing Sewald saying that as well, and now he's playing in the World Series, it's just what you're saying. Spend the money. Should have done it last year. Now's your chance again. Don't mess it up.
And we've talked about a little bit how there's no more excuses this offseason. I specifically during the offseason last year was kind of on board with what the Mariners did and how they did it. With that being said, under the impression that when the time came in July, they'd go out and add someone they needed to, look at the holes, see what they needed. And again, we all thought Colton Wong was going to be a lot better. Like, would average Colton Wong have won the Mariners division? Probably.
Yeah.
If Colton Wong was just who he's been his entire career, his entire 10-year career, the Mariners probably win the division. It's plain and simple.
Yeah.
And I like in last year, like this time last year, this is right before like the Teoscar trade and whatnot. We were pounding the table saying this is the most important offseason in Mariners history, and they didn't. The Mariners basically fumbled the bag, but not so. They didn't fumble it so badly that they're just out of it now and like they need to be crucified. But they basically extended that window to this year, this offseason. Like if they don't go do something, it doesn't have to be big, but if you do not go out there and raise the floor of this team, you're cooked. Like that's it.
Yeah.
The Rangers have leapfrogged you. It was the Astros and the Mariners, and then the Rangers. Now it's the Astros, the Mariners, the Rangers. Like
yeah,
in my like the Rangers have leapfrogged you. You need to go out there and make yourself a more competitive ball club.
yeah, just adding quality guys throughout the entire like 26 man to make sure that you don't have these glaring holes. You're saying raising the floor. The floor for the Mariners, unfortunately, last year involved having Sam Haggerty be a DH more often than not. You're running out another lineup with that being said of Caballero and Dylan Moore in that same, 7, 8, 9. And then you look at the Rangers lineup, they have Josh Young batting 8th. Dude was going to win Rookie of the Year probably until Gunnar Henderson started playing out of his freaking mind, and obviously Young got hurt. But he's batting 8th.
A good 8-hole hitter.
It's a really good 8-hole hitter. He could be batting 6th. You could move him up probably, but there are other guys like Evan Carter got moved up in the postseason because he's hitting well. And I know it's all situational stuff, but regardless, you look at the Rangers 1 through 9, it like washes the Mariners in terms of their performance this year. I think last offseason we were on the fence about Nathaniel Lowe being and like Ty France, like who had the better first baseman there, and obviously, Nathaniel Lowe was the better one in 2023, but coming into that season, I think it was more of a coin flip. Now we know it definitely was not. Right. And same thing with like Gino versus Josh Young. Like there's just positional. There's spots in your lineup where you felt you had a little bit more wiggle room of you're still holding that position over them in terms of talent, but you're saying they leapfrogged us.
Maybe that is the scary, spooky Halloween segment. Like the Rangers leapfrogged us. You said the word Sam Haggerty and DH in the same sentence.
I did.
But let's get into this spooky segment, huh? Can we get like a spooky sound out of you really quick?
Ooh!
Thank you so much. Yeah. All right. So in this spooky segment, Joe, I'm gonna give you a couple different scenarios, and you're going to tell me which one you prefer.
Okay.
2024, Jose Caballero plays in 100 games at second base, or Marco Gonzalez makes 30 starts for this rotation.
Oh, 30?
Which one's scarier to you?
30 starts for Marco is scarier for me.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Wow.
I think so.
Over 100 games from Caballero.
It doesn't have to be 109 inning games. It could be 69 inning games and then, 45 inning games. Okay. I have a second. So you're saying 100 games. Are they starts? Like 100 starts?
I think the way I was thinking about it, yes, they're starts.
And then is he getting pinch hit for
sure.
in the 5th or 6th?
Sure.
I'd still rather that. I would trust Caballero to grow a little bit as a player, be better than Marco for 30 starts of a season.
Okay.
And I'll say it. I've defended Marco a decent amount, not the most, but when you've got Miller, Wu, Hancock right there, it's obviously Miller and Wu above both of them pretty handily, I think. And then Marco and Emerson in a similar conversation.
Okay. Which is scarier? Logan Gilbert makes less than 15 starts, or Cal Raleigh gets injured at the start of the season and misses the whole year?
Cal Raleigh.
Yeah?
We don't... I mean, I think it depends on who we get in free agency. Like, if we bring Tom Murphy back, it's not super, super scary, but then that is then going to require the Mariners to go out and make a move for another catcher at the beginning of the year, like right away. 15 starts from Gilbert, if it's the last 15 starts, it's a little bit better, I think, compared to the first 15. He's more ready for the second half of the year for the postseason push. Cal's out for the year. He was third best catcher in all of baseball in terms of WAR this year versus Gilbert. It was great, but he's not top 20 in Cy Young kind of a thing. So,
okay, you have a repeat year from either Ty France or Eugenio Suarez. Which is scarier?
Oh, I think a repeat year from Gino is scarier because we have a replacement closer in Tyler Locklear, and I think a better market to replace Ty France than we do Gino. And Gino's going to be replaced in 2-ish years anyways because his contract's done, like unless we re-sign him to be DH, like however it works. But I would be more worried that Ty France, the guy that I think as a team, and I think a fan base for me as well, would have wanted him to be a, maybe not cornerstone, like a guy that's like, he is like the main piece, like one of the, like, the Mount Rushmore of the 2025 World Series winning Seattle Mariners. He's not the Mount Rushmore player there, but like, he's one of, like the guys that's at the table, I would have penciled him in as like a 120 WRC plus consistently.
Okay.
No?
Yeah, I don't know if I followed anything you just said, but all right. All right. The real last one now.
Okay.
The Mariners. There are two options this offseason. The Mariners spend $60 million a year on Shohei Ohtani for the next 5 years. And that's it. That's all they do this offseason. Or they don't spend any money this offseason. Which is scarier.
Not spending any money.
Yeah.
Like without it, like even if it's you're spending 80 million on Shohei, like going further than what you said. I think I am less scared about that than them not spending any money at all. And I get the market's not great, but looking at this team, not willing to spend any money in the free agent market. And I understand that you're not only looking at free agency to acquire players, acquire talent to make your team better. If they don't spend any money and they're saying that, oh, the money we spent was actually in acquiring players via trade because our salary cap went up. Sure, you can work that conversation however you want to. But it's incumbent upon the fact that they're making trades.
Yeah, that's kind of the way I'm looking at it. Is like they're still making trades, but in the end, their payroll goes up maybe a minimal amount. I'd say less than $10 million overall.
I'd still be more scared that their payroll only went up 10 million over trades than spending 60 million on Shohei a year.
Mm-hmm. It's respectable. Okay.
Thank you.
Well done. This has been your super duper spooky Halloween segment with Colton.
Woo!
And honestly, I agree. Not spending any money in free agency would be pretty damn scary. So that's why the Mariners need to go out and sign somebody this offseason. And I made a video talking about my favorite free agent pitchers the Mariners should sign. Go ahead and check that one out. I appreciate you guys watching this one, and go Mariners.